Hello, and welcome to the first episode of The Faithful Artist, the podcast where creativity meets faith and we explore the journey of artists navigating their craft with purpose. I'm your host, Carrie Ann James, and I'm so excited to bring you along this journey of discovering what it means to create with faith and spirituality in today's world. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a TV and film actress, a scholar, a media and entertainment professional, but first and foremost, I'm an artist and I'm someone who, like all of you, has been called to create and connect. Whether it's in acting, film, research, curating, programming, or even producing, I found that every project I work on reflects not only my vision, but also my faith in God and my love for people. In today's episode, I want to introduce this podcast series and share a little bit about my own journey and how faith has shaped not only my career, but also my creative practice. I've worked in the media industry for several years now, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that staying true to your values and yourself in general, and especially as a spiritually inclined person, can be very challenging. Some of the places where you can find me, or you may have seen me, is on Netflix's Grand Army, Ginny in Georgia, Mayor of Kingstown, Children Ruin Everything, and there's a couple of projects that are going to come out soon, and maybe I'll be able to talk about some people that I've worked with on this podcast. So I've always loved the arts from a young age. I was drawn to storytelling, fashion design, singing, and dancing, whether it was through acting or film. But it wasn't until I really began to grow in my faith that I realized how much God's hand was guiding my work. It wasn't just about art, it was about creating with purpose. That shift in perspective changed everything for me, and my dream wasn't just about achieving new accolades and being the best, but instead it was about being of service to others and being as open and as authentic as I could possibly be. Definitely one of those actors who knew they wanted to act since they were four. Um, I watched TV and films in such a concerning way as a kid that I was so completely immersed in it that I could recite every scene and plot point in a film I just watched to my grandma. And yeah, I was hypnotized. It was crazy. But I wasn't allowed to watch TV much, but when I did, I'd run back and forth from the computer room. Everyone who's born in before 2000 knows exactly what a computer room is. So I'd run from the computer room to my bathroom and recite like any dialogue I could remember during the commercial break. I would sit there in front of the mirror and I would give an Oscar-worthy performance. Okay. So my older brother became a child actor, and when that birthed a little bit of bad behavior, don't tell anyone I said that. My parents my parents didn't want that for me, so they wanted to make sure that I stayed focused on school. So they said they'd allowed me to model and act if I got straight A's, which I did. But yeah, clearly I never got to be an actor or a model. And that's okay, because looking back, I'm actually very grateful for their protection, especially after seeing a lot of the news and documentaries coming out and about child actors. Instead, what they did is that they put me in ballet and I prayed every single night, like unceasingly. Like it was like clockwork, where I would be like, I'd say this certain prayer. I'm not going to say it here because I still say it to this day. And some things, you want to keep it to yourself. But I would pray the same prayer every day about being, the type of artist that I wanted to be. And long story short, my brother told me one day, he's like, start how you want to finish. And that motivates a lot of my work ethic now. And I've always known I wanted to start and finish with my core values at the center of everything that I do. I had a moment early in my acting career when I was my own agent, and a couple of times more recently when I've had to decide whether I would take on a project or decide to audition for a project that didn't exactly align with the type of message I want to send to this world or the vision of what I thought it meant to be an artist, which I think is such a hard thing because when you're starting, especially, you're like, oh, I want to say yes to every single thing. And it's not realistic to do that. I mean, yeah, there's like burnout is a thing, but your direction matters. And like my brother said, like start how you want to finish. And I always hold that so dear to me. And it always feels like a life or death decision for me, especially in an industry that often pressures and rewards you for fitting in. And I've just never been someone that ever fit in. I don't see it as a bad thing ever to kind of stick out, but it does feel like a risk when you see that it's a business. It's not really like a social type of fitting in. It's like there is a formula, you know? So I really leaned on my faith in God and that He would provide. And I'd kind of always like reference like Matthew 6:33 that kept me grounded. It still continues to keep me grounded to this day, actually. It's pretty much my lifeline. So I knew that if I stayed actively faithful to what I believe that God wanted for me, the right opportunities would come. And being the person that I am, I knew that if they didn't come, then I was supposed to make them. It's no secret that the entertainment world can be, I don't know, pretty secular, for many artists. It is entertainment. And there's like a struggle between staying true to your own values or staying true to yourself while also playing or entertaining other people. So having time to cultivate and maintain a spiritual practice of faith and adapting to the industry's demands, it's difficult. And I faced that conflict a few times, and I'm sure some of you have too. What I've learned as a Christian and as someone who grew up with the word around me is that God doesn't ask any of us to conform. In fact, in Colossians or Colossians, however you want to say it, it's okay. 3:23, it says it best. It says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. And that's been my guiding verse. Like when I've done, a lot of actors could relate to this. When you've done those like odd jobs or, you're doing retail or service industry, like I've been sitting there bored out of my mind being like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. But then I remember, yes, it is. It is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I need to do this well. Like whatever the job is, even if it's just signing people in to get their photo taken or whatever it is, it's do it well. Do it as if you're doing it for the people you love the most. And I think it brings the meaning back into the mundane and boring, or the things that you don't remember are important to your overall story, to your journey. Like when you're dreaming, you don't dream about the job that supports your dreams, but it's a part of it. And I try to remind myself of that. And in every audition, every project I take on, I remind myself that I'm working not just for myself or for others, but I'm working for God. It keeps me really grounded and authentic, and I think it keeps me like hopeful and positive when I'm creating work. And it seems to work because I am very proud of everything that I've done, no matter what. Authenticity is one of the most important aspects of any artist's journey, in my opinion. But what does it mean to be authentic in your art and in your faith? For me, it means creating work that reflects who I am at my core and embodying that with my peers. It means being unafraid to let my ideas and my weird quirks and, I don't know, messiness and my faith too, and my love for things and things I hate, my opinions, like let them shine through in what I create and how I create it, even if it's not the norm or popular. And that's something I'm pretty acquainted with because I've never really felt like a normal person. I know a lot of people probably feel that way too because what do we even know about being a human? We've all only been here once. And we don't really get a second chance. So all we know is that we're here and we have to make something of it. And I think that it's hardest to find where you're supposed to be if you're never truly who you are. If you make decisions based on other people or you neglect what is calling you, you're always going to end up in another space that feels foreign because it it wasn't meant for you. And I think authenticity is walking in that path, even if you're afraid, even if it doesn't make any sense to anyone else. And, do it scared, do it, do it alone, do it with as much truth and honesty that you can, because then you'll find the people that want to support that, you know, and, you might start off and it might feel odd or you might feel isolated, but I think the path reveals itself, it becomes straight. In today's artistic landscape, it's easy to lose sight of why we create in the first place, but I believe that artists, we have a unique calling to bring light into the world. Whether you're an actor or a filmmaker, a painter, a musician, a model, a dancer, or I don't know, whatever you do or whatever you make, your work can serve as a testament to God's love and his purpose for you and for every single person. Every single person. There is a reason for you wanting to do something, like the idea that's in your mind. Like you are inherently an artist, and I think that it's easy to lose sight with the business side of stuff, but it's important to know the business and to navigate it in a way that feels right to you, because nothing's perfect. None of us are. No industry is. It doesn't matter if you're an accountant or if you're a superstar pop, like mega, I don't know, TikTok dancer. It doesn't even matter what it is. There's always going to be some type of algorithm or some type of trend that makes money, and you're going to have to compromise or figure out a way over or through it. But that's something that I think about. And that's why I started The Faithful Artist. I wanted to create a space where artists can come together and share their stories and inspire one another. And in future episodes, I will be talking to artists from different disciplines, from filmmakers to visual artists, executive producers, all of whom are navigating their spiritual life and creative life in a unique and inspiring way. And this whole project of the podcast came from me wanting to make my master's thesis in cinema and media studies come to life. And my master's thesis was really focused on the intersections and implications of the legacy of syncretic, which is just a fancy word for combining different religions or different aspects of religions into one. And I was looking at what that meant to the legacy of Black music videos, which I called Black films because I was studying Black cinema. And I found that artists like Solange and Kamasi Washington of the Uma Chroma and Khalil Joseph and Alice Coltrane and, other artists that I was looking at had this very deep spiritual underbelly to the motivation of their work or the creation of it. Solange, when I get home, was like, she said this, and I was in such awe when she said this in an interview. I believe it was with ID. I think it was with ID. That Solange was saying that When I Get Home was an album that was a offering to God for getting her through a tough time when she had an illness and she wasn't sure if she was going to make it. And like the Umakromos is a filmmaking collective that when they came together, they had a shaman come and bless the creation of their collective. All the imagery that's used in a lot of the work that's being done now, I'm like, there is so much that is layered under these images or this music or this film that we're kind of ignoring, as if there isn't a aspect of people that we often keep private, which is our spiritual practices. Usually it's that, or some of our values, and rightfully so. Some things can stay private, but I think it's very beneficial when we talk about the things that motivate us and inspire us, or that helped us create something so outside of the box. I could think of us a couple of times when I couldn't even explain exactly how I came up with this program that I did for Images Festival, where I had a list of films that I dreamt. And that became the program called Green Pastures, Still Waters, and Black Rhythms. And it was for the slow edition of the Images Festival. I dreamt up the entire thing. And we talked about dreams, and we talked about the spiritual practices of indigenous, Black indigenous artists and indigenous to Lesotho. I hope I'm saying that right, in Africa, and what it means to connect with land, to connect with yourself through your art, and what it meant. And both of those artists, Ayo Salitava and Kaya Joan, they won awards in that festival. And it was a program I dreamt of. Like, I didn't even know what films to do. I was on set of Children Ruin Everything, and I was in my trailer, and it was like just putting together these these bits and pieces of my dream. I didn't know what to put on before that, and I woke up and I knew. So there's these weird things that are become part of our practices as artists that aren't so weird. Because then I had a conversation with both those filmmakers, and they told me about how their dreams inspire them. So these are the reasons why I made this podcast. But more importantly, this podcast is for you. It's a place to explore how you can stay true to your calling, even when it feels difficult. We'll dive into tough questions. How do you maintain your values in an industry that often doesn't share them? How do you stay encouraged when doors close? Or how do you balance success? How do you stay grateful when things are good? How do you stay humble when things are good? How do you stay motivated when things are good? Like, what do we do? Because we know these are things we talk about when, everything's going wrong. We're like, okay, let me find motivation. But these things never die. Our souls need some type of fuel. And there's always a season of restoration, which means there has to be a season of drought. And I'm really interested in that, the slope, the build from the bottom to the top, and then down again, and then upside down and flip it around. And, they flip it and reverse it, as a great philosopher, Missy Elliott, has prophesied. But as we wrap up today's episode, I wanted to leave you with a thought. Wherever you are in your journey, whether you're just starting out or you've been working in your craft for years, know that your work has purpose. God has placed this creative gift inside you for a reason. You are called to create, not just for yourself, but for the greater plan that none of us know. So if you're walking and it feels a little shaky, know that everyone's shaking. Know that everyone is shaking. It's just that some of us do a really good job of looking like we're super stable. And sometimes you can't see the shaking. Sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's external. But either way, don't let that stop you. So, thank you for tuning in to this first episode of The Faithful Artist. I'm so grateful to have you here, and I can't wait to share more stories and insights and combos in some upcoming episodes. If today's episode resonated with you at all, I'd love for you to subscribe and follow and share it with a fellow artist or a creative or just a friend who could use a little encouragement or just a little cute chit chat. So, thank you for listening to this episode of The Faithful Artist. And I want to invite you to download the Alive Podcast Network app where you can support even more incredible Black artists who are shaping the future. See you in the next episode. Godspeed.